This Siskel and Ebert special report is brought to you by Orville Redenbacher, the first and last name in popcorn.
The Academy Award nominations were announced this week, and as usual, there were surprises, some of inclusion, some of exclusion. For me, the biggest surprise in terms of inclusion was the way the independent film category seemed to sweep traditional studio films aside in the nominations. Of the 5 best film nominees, for example, only Forrest Gump is really an old-fashioned, big-budget star vehicle, and it was pretty weird. The other nominees were an offbeat independent film, Pulp Fiction, a quirky British import, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and the difficult but deeply moving prison drama, The Shawshank Redemption. Even Quiz Show, at a section of an American cultural turning point, was not a traditional big studio film. By choosing films like that instead of more traditional choices like The Lion King, Legends of the Fall, or Little Women, the Academy voters were opening up the envelope a little, and one of the most revealing facts about this year's nominations is that Miramax Films, the New York-based distributor of independent movies like Pulp Fiction, Bullets Over Broadway, Red, Tom and Viv, and Strawberry and Chocolate, got 22 nominations for its films, more than any of the old-line Hollywood studios. That is, something's blowing in the wind.
Well, I can tell you what's blowing in the wind. We're really seeing American movies move along 2 different tracks, and that is the very safe studio productions and this whole renegade independent kind of cinema. I could quarrel with you on whether Quiz Show qualifies as
It's marginal, it's marginal.
Okay,
yeah.
but your point is very well taken, that the pictures, that there's a real battle going on here. It has to do with the amount of money that's spent on a film, and it has to do with where these movies come from. Audience-centered, remaking old TV shows into pictures like we've been talking about, or whether you make something out of your heart and mind.
You know what this Oscar nomination list really does? I think it's an indictment of marketing theories, because what the big studios are doing more and more is market research in terms of how to recycle formulas and to make last year's hit into next year's movie. And those movies, some of them make money, but they're dead in the water, and the Academy voters know it at nomination time.
But I will tell you that you're fighting an uphill battle when a picture like The Flintstones grosses $130 million domestically. The biggest surprise inclusion for me was the 7 nominations accorded to Woody Allen's Bullets Over Broadway. 3 of its actors were nominated in the supporting categories: Diane Wiest as a drunken veteran actress, Jennifer Tilly as the mobster's babe, and Chaz Palminteri as the mobster's henchman who becomes Tilly's unwilling babysitter.
Don't say ha.
Oh, don't say hi. I added that.
What do you mean you added that? Are you allowed to do that?
I added it. We're allowed to add things.
How could you just add something?
You're
You
allowed
can't
to
do
add
that.
things. It's called ad-libbing.
Moving on now to surprises of omission on the Oscar list, we were both shocked to find out that Hoop Dreams, the Chicago basketball documentary of inner-city black lives, was shut out of the Best Documentary category, not to mention Best Picture. It did receive a Best Editing nomination, but the documentary committee continued its shocking streak of ignoring films that are praised by critics, or maybe more important, receive plenty of exhibition in commercial theaters and are endorsed by the public. The 47 members of the documentary committee seems to be saying, we'd rather help other films achieve the same kind of prominence. This time they ignored a movie that followed 2 Chicago boys for 5 years, from 8th grade to their freshman year in college, as they follow their dream of playing NBA professional basketball.
Derek Zimmerman's layup pushes Marshall to a 1-point lead. Moments later, a Westinghouse foul, and then a double technical puts Arthur on the line with a chance to ice the victory.
I talked with 2 documentary committee members. One gave Hoop Dreams the highest rating possible. The other said he heard that some of his fellow members had trouble with its 3-hour running time. If true, it should be noted that the film editors nominated Hoop Dreams for best editing of any movie all year, so it wasn't too long for editors, which may be the ultimate compliment, if you think about it, for a 3-hour movie. The best thing to come out of this snubbing is that the media is going to spend more time now promoting Hoop Dreams, which opened wider last week. It's now in more than 250 theaters across the country. You take a look. You'll be glad you did.
You know, Gene, I was talking to Barbara Koppel, who won 2 Academy Awards for her
great documentary
documentaries.
filmmaker.
And she said this committee is in love with talking heads and stock footage, and that's exactly what they are. These old-fashioned television-oriented films with battleships bombing the beaches at Normandy while some deep voice says how many troops went ashore. They are not interested in living, breathing documentaries. And there's another problem, and that is the committee that picks these documentaries is volunteers, mostly retired people, not most of them documentarians at all. But they have 4 hours free 2 nights a week for 11 weeks to see 64 documentaries, almost 100 hours of documentaries. And so they go night after night, and they get to know each other, and they chat, and they arrive, and they leave. And until this year, they had a chairman. This year, the woman who was the chairman stepped aside for a year because she had a film that was in the running. Now, what do you know? They nominated it. It's the Stockholm Syndrome. They're so friendly that, of course, they wanted to do her a favor. And every year, if you go back year after year and look at the nominees, you'll find one or two nominees that are fishy because the people that manipulate the committee are trying to get their pictures nominated. This situation stinks. It's rotten. And until the Academy reforms it, they have shame on their name.
But, Roger, let me just throw some of their objections back, because I know that they're going to be listening and taking notes on everything you said. Number one, they're going to say that every branch gets to vote for its own work.
Yeah, but this branch doesn't. The documentarians don't have a documentary branch.
Okay. The next thing they're going to say is you, Roger, and Eugene have not seen the 64 films we voted on.
I've seen one of them that they nominated, and nobody smart enough to tie his shoes would feel that that film was better than Hoop Dreams.
And that was a pretty good film, by the way.
And it was a pretty good film.
It's predictable. They resent success. When we come back, we'll take another look at the movies we reviewed on this show.